Trump's war on drug trafficking getting even larger in scale, the president declaring cartels as unlawful combatants, paving the way for wartime powers.
At exactly 5:18 a.m., Minneapolis was still asleep. The streets were frozen, quiet, ordinary. Frost hugged parked cars, and the city looked like it always did. Safe, predictable, unaware. But beneath that calm surface, a line had already been crossed. A federal operation had been activated, one that would tear open a truth nobody wanted to believe. Unmarked vehicles slid into position outside a downtown judicial building. No sirens, no flashing lights, just doors opening softly and boots touching ice-covered concrete. FBI and DEA agents moved with precision, their breath visible in the cold air. This was not a raid on a cartel warehouse or a border tunnel. This was a strike on the heart of the justice system itself. The target was a sitting judge. Inside the building, security cameras were already under federal control. The locks were breached in seconds. A reinforced office door gave way with a single violent impact, sending echoes through the empty halls. The American flag beside the judge's desk trembled from the shock. Family photos tilted on the wall. Symbols of trust, authority, and service stood silently as the truth began to surface. Agents searched carefully, methodically. Desk drawers, filing cabinets, shelves behind legal textbooks. Nothing looked unusual at first. The office was neat, professional, respectable. That was the illusion. Then someone tapped the wall. Behind a false panel, hidden with expert craftsmanship, they found tightly wrapped bricks, 6 kilograms of pure cocaine. Nearby, foam-lined cases held firearms that had never been registered. This was not evidence of coercion or desperation. This was planning. But the real shock came moments later. A steel safe covered in dust and disguised as part of the wall was forced open. Inside were stacks of sealed cash, bundled, labeled, and totaling over $80 million. Not hidden hastily, stored with confidence. On the judge's desk, an unlocked phone lit up with encrypted messages, routes, codes, dates, shipment confirmations, all connected to an international cartel network. This was not corruption at the edges of the system. This was corruption wearing a robe. By sunrise, one truth was undeniable. The law had not been infiltrated. It had been invited in. This wasn't an external threat attacking the country. It was betrayal growing quietly inside it. And this was only the beginning. As investigators dug deeper, the story became far more disturbing. This was not a judge caught in a moment of weakness. This was an architect. For years, she had built a network that moved money, narcotics, and influence with surgical precision. Shell companies appeared on paper across multiple states and offshore locations. None sold products, none employed workers, yet millions flowed through them effortlessly. The money came from one source, a cartel pipeline that stretched across borders and into the Midwest, disguised by legal paperwork and official approvals. Bank transfers were approved after midnight. Cargo inspections were mysteriously waived. Court cases involving certain transport companies vanished without explanation. Every step had a signature. Every signature belonged to someone trusted. This was not bribery whispered in dark alleys. This was administration. Surveillance footage later revealed secret meetings, short, silent encounters in empty buildings, in closed community centers. No handshakes, no bags exchanged, just doors opening and closing and agreements understood without words. Then came the most chilling discovery of all. The operation wasn't limited to drugs. Federal analysts uncovered immigration channels connected directly to the same financial web. Hundreds of men had entered the state through fast-tracked processes tied to nonprofit organizations and care clinics. On paper, they were service workers. In reality, many had violent criminal histories. Within months, crimes surged. Shootings, armed robberies, overdose deaths, human trafficking cases, all traced back to the same network. The violence wasn't random. It followed routes, schedules in zones that had been quietly protected by official decisions. In one case, a shooting outside a grocery store left 2 elderly civilians wounded. The suspect carried identification from a medical clinic, later proven to have billed millions in fake services. Money meant for healthcare had funded violence. The line between law and crime didn't blur, it vanished. This was no longer about one judge breaking the law. It was about how easily the system had been bent to serve something else. A structure designed to protect citizens had been repurposed to exploit them. And once that structure was in place, it didn't need secrecy, it needed silence. By the time dawn approached on Thursday, the investigation had evolved into something far larger. It had a name now: Operation Northern Razor. Inside a federal command center, walls were covered with maps, red markers, blue arrows, ordinary locations circled in black ink, warehouses, clinics, churches, apartment buildings, places people passed every day without fear. At 4:03 a.m., a single command went out across the state: move. More than 100 units deployed simultaneously. Highways were sealed. Tactical vans rolled through icy streets. A helicopter hovered low over a riverfront industrial zone, its blades scattering snow into the darkness. The first breach hit an abandoned trucking depot. From the outside, it looked forgotten. Inside, agents found packaging machines, cutting agents, and pallets ready for distribution. Another team raided a converted church basement filled with pills, cash counters, and chemical residue. The most resistance came from a quiet suburban home. 2 men ran the moment agents approached. Drones tracked their movement as they sprinted across snow-covered yards. Within minutes, both were on the ground, breathing hard, hands cuffed, illusions shattered. By noon, 27 locations had fallen. More than 200 kilograms of narcotics were seized. Cash was pulled from vents, walls, and floorboards. Laptops revealed schedules matching official meetings. Appointment books listed names that had already begun resigning from public office. Minnesota woke up to police tape wrapped around familiar places. This was not a foreign invasion. It was a purge.
They're operating these networks around our entire country. So we are going to keep our entire country safe. We're going to protect all Americans.
The arrests sent shockwaves far beyond the raids. City halls went quiet. Office doors stayed locked. Emails were deleted too late. Digital trails had already been secured. Ledgers revealed monthly payments disguised as consulting fees. Zoning approvals aligned perfectly with shipment dates. Donations coincided with sudden drops in enforcement along specific routes. This wasn't coincidence. It was design. Public reaction turned from anger to disbelief. Seniors stared at news footage of streets they had known for decades. Protesters gathered outside courthouses, holding signs that asked a terrifying question: if the law is criminal, what justice remains? Inside a detention facility, the judge sat in silence. No statements, no excuses, just hands folded, staring forward. Charges mounted, over 100 individuals implicated. Officials, accountants, clinic managers, former officers. None of the accusations were small. Every charge represented a broken promise. The true damage wasn't counted in drugs or money. It was counted in fear. People no longer knew who to trust. When the headlines faded, a deeper quiet settled over Minnesota. Not peace, reflection. Courtrooms looked the same. Flags still stood. Benches remained polished, but belief had cracked. This case revealed a hard truth. Drugs don't move through cities alone. They move through permissions, through signatures, through silence. Yet another truth emerged as well. The system did not collapse quietly. It fought back. A nurse saved records because something felt wrong. A young officer refused an envelope. A bank clerk printed transaction histories with shaking hands. Ordinary people chose integrity when it mattered. Operation Northern Razor was not born from power. It was born from courage, and that is why it mattered. Justice is not a building. It is not a title. It is a promise. And that promise survives only when people protect it.